Well, I'm joined now by money expert Brendan Burgess for our weekly Money Stories slot. Every week over the summer, we'll be discussing people's stories of their debts, their loans and their relationships, or indeed their lack of relationship with their banks. Brendan, good morning to you.
Good morning, Myles.
OK, what's this week's story?
This week we're going to talk about how the lenders deal with borrowers who lose their jobs and just can't afford to make the repayments on their mortgage. A few weeks ago we were dealing with John. John was in deep negative equity, but at least he was in a well-paid job and he was able to make the payments on his mortgage. And as a result of that programme, we were contacted by Kate. Kate was working in the construction industry. She was earning up to €150,000 a year. She lost her job. She's now on job seekers allowance of €196 a week, and she has a €580,000 mortgage.
That is a hell of a wallop. I mean, just to go from €150,000 a year to 196 per week.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people. I mean, there are 32,000 people at the moment in over 3 months arrears at the moment. So Kate is quite typical of what's out there at the moment, although her figures might be a little bit larger and more dramatic than some others.
And presumably she never believed that the crash, as a lot of people in the construction industry didn't believe that the crash would come, certainly would come as heavily and as quickly as it did.
Yeah, she was working in the construction industry, so she's doubly hit by all the problems.
OK, now she describes here how she fell in love with the house when she first saw it, and she also talks about her problems getting work.
When I was originally going to buy the house, I intended moving out into a rural area, and when I came to see the house, I certainly fell in love with it because of the size of it, the location, a beautiful, luxurious style house in a lovely rural setting, but still within an estate. And I just fell in love with it. I really did. And it was the first house I felt, or the first property that I was going to actually set down roots. This was going to be my home, and this is where I was going to stay put. Work had started to fizzle out a bit in 2008, and by the end of 2008, really, there was no more work there. So from that time onwards, I was still fairly positive that I would get a job, if not in Ireland, then maybe abroad. So I set about applying to every country in the world, really. But to no avail. I sent out literally thousands of CVs, and I even got to the stage where I downgraded the level of job, the level of position I was applying for. It got to the stage where I would have done anything on a building site in any part of the world, and I just couldn't even get an interview. In thousands of CVs I sent out, there wasn't an interview, to be got. So it became very frustrating, and it became very frightening, because for the first time ever I realised there really is no work out there. And it's a very daunting thing to be faced with. And the fact is that I had a big house and I had a big mortgage, but was fine for the salary I was earning at the time. But going from that down to zero, it became a huge hill to climb.
So, as you heard there, she made valiant efforts to find work and to bring in some income. Tell me a bit about her debts.
Yes, well, she bought a house in 2007. She sold the house she had, so she had about 260,000 in savings and the profits of the previous house. She paid €800,000 for the house in early 2007. And so she needed a mortgage of 540,000.
But a 70% mortgage, which in the context of what was going on at the time would be pretty modest, really.
Yeah, 70% loan to value, between 4 and 5 times her salary. At the time, certainly that would not have been seen as in any way reckless borrowing. Obviously, some people would say you're crazy to be borrowing that amount of money, but it was certainly not the worst at the time.
Yeah, she was, however, single, so it was an expensive house, a large house and a large mortgage, I suppose, for a single person, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, as she said
in
herself,
retrospect.
She fell in love with the house, and she really said, I want that house. And, she could afford it. She had 240,000 in savings, so she was well able to afford it on the salary that she was on.
OK, now the ouch question. How much is the house now worth?
The house would now be worth about half that.
So about 400,000.
It's worth about 400,000.
And she has debts of 540,000, which would probably more on top of that.
Yeah, it's about 580 at the moment because she's had difficulty in paying her mortgage, so the arrears have built up on her mortgage.
So she's gone from having savings of 260,000 to a deficit of 180,000. Gone from a salary of 150,000 a year to a job seekers allowance of 196 per week. But she's not sitting back complaining about being unemployed. She's prepared to go anywhere anywhere.
Yeah, no, she's very, very proactive. She's produced, a lot of CVs. She's contacted the employment agencies. She's not sort of saying, I can't leave Ireland, I can't leave my house. She's prepared to let her house and move to any part of the world in order to get work to earn a living. So she's just, in the construction industry, she's finding it just almost impossible worldwide to get a job.
Did she do the right thing? Did she get in touch with her bank immediately?
Yes, she did. People are told to get in touch with their bank as soon as they get into difficulty, and she did do that.
Okay, now by the beginning of last year, as you said, she was running into difficulties. She made valiant efforts, as she describes here.
I did contact my mortgage company I did contact First Active in January 2009 to let them know that things weren't very good on the work front, and I was concerned that if I didn't get work in the next few months, I certainly would be running into trouble with my mortgage. So at the time they said, look, well, come back to us close at the time. By March, money had run out. I didn't have any money to meet the mortgage payments. So I approached them at that point, but I had missed 2 months arrears. I was in arrears of 2 months at that stage. So I went to them and explained to them my position and asked them what were the options. And a moratorium was offered to me at that point. And the longest period of a moratorium I could get was 6 months, even though I had begged and pleaded for the 12 months, but I couldn't get that. So I was on a 6-month moratorium, and that certainly helped things along. So I went in and out of arrears over a period of a few months. However, I kept them informed all the time. I would have regularly met them, possibly every 2 months, and they would have reviewed the situation. So they kind of stood in the background and waited and watched. I said to them, what's it going to take for you to take my house? And they replied to me by saying, look, there are 2 reasons that cause people to lose their homes. 1 is non-engagement and 2 is non-payment. And they said, look, you do not need to be concerned at this point because you are both engaging with us and making some form of payment. So that certainly offered a huge amount of relief to me at the time.